It was supposed to be a typical Sunday. You know, the kind where nothing much happens and you're grateful for it. I had planned to be out all morning, dropping the car off at the auto shop for a scheduled tune-up and grabbing coffee on the way back. But when I pulled up and saw a handwritten sign taped to the garage door, closed for emergency repairs, I took it as a weird stroke of luck. The sky was still gray from last night's rain, and the roads were slick but quiet. It felt like a good day to be home. When I stepped through the front door, the house was still and soft with morning light. That kind of quiet where you almost feel guilty walking across the floor. No TV humming in the background. No dogs barking. Just the steady tick of the wall clock and the low creak of the house settling. Peaceful, I guess. But I've learned that sometimes peace is just the absence of things and not always in a good way. I tossed my keys onto the entryway table and headed for the kitchen, thinking I'd make some coffee before texting Lexi to see if she wanted to do something spontaneous. We'd both been talking about how long it had been since we just hung out, the two of us. She'd been so busy lately, late meetings, weekend catch-ups, and new projects piling up at work. I figured maybe I'd surprise her with a brunch plan. But when I walked into the kitchen, that's when I saw it. Sitting right there on the counter was a jewelry box. Small. Square. Midnight blue with a soft velvet finish, like something straight out of a boutique. It was the kind of thing you could instantly tell wasn't cheap. No note. No bag. No receipt. Just the box, as if someone had set it down absent-mindedly and forgotten to hide it. I froze, one hand still reaching toward the cabinet for a mug. My brain didn't jump straight to suspicion, not yet. It's weird how your first instinct isn't always what you think it'd be. Mine was confusion, followed by the thought that maybe Lexi had bought something for herself and forgot to put it away. I reached for it slowly, like it might vanish if I moved too fast. The box had a soft weight to it, not heavy but substantial enough to feel deliberate. When I opened the lid, I felt something shift in my chest. Inside, nestled in white cotton, was a silver bracelet. Thin but elegant, the kind with small links and a single charm hanging from the center, a tiny engraved heart. No price tag, but I didn't need one. It wasn't costume jewelry, that much was obvious. And Lexi's not the kind of person to treat herself to something like that without mentioning it. Not when we were supposed to be saving for a trip we'd been planning since last spring. I turned over the tag tucked beneath the cotton lining. There were initials scribbled in neat, unfamiliar handwriting. To L, from R. That was it. No message. No card. No branding on the box. Just those two letters. And neither one was mine. I stood there for a long time, staring at that bracelet, running a mental list of possibilities that all felt more like excuses than answers. Maybe it was from a friend? A family member? One of her coworkers with a weird sense of humor? But even as I tried to rationalize it, I could feel that creeping sense of unease planting itself in my gut. Lexi didn't get home until around 2. She came through the front door humming to herself, earbuds in, wearing leggings and one of my old hoodies, her weekend reset uniform. When she saw me standing in the kitchen, she smiled like it was the most ordinary day in the world. "Hey, babe," she said, walking over to kiss my cheek. "You're back early." I nodded. Shop was closed. Something about plumbing issues. She laughed. "Guess that's your lucky day." "Yeah, I guess." I watched her walk past me, opening the fridge and peering inside like nothing in the world was out of place. She didn't notice the box right away, even though I'd left it exactly where I found it, on the counter right next to the fruit bowl we never refill. When her eyes finally landed on it, she paused for a beat. Not long. Just a second. Barely noticeable, really. But it was enough. "Oh," she said, almost like she was remembering something mid-conversation. "That's from work. You'll laugh, it's stupid, really. We did this thing on Friday, kind of like a secret Santa even though it's not the holidays. Just a team morale thing." She picked it up casually, flipped the lid open, and held it toward me like it was some novelty gag. "One of the new guys, Ray, I think?" He drew my name. He's kind of the office clown. Said he picked it up on clearance because he thought it was ironic or whatever. "Ray. R. Of course." I didn't say anything for a moment. Just raised an eyebrow and nodded. She smiled a little wider, like she had anticipated the skepticism and already had her answers rehearsed. "I mean, it's pretty, but I don't even wear bracelets," she added with a shrug. "Honestly, I was thinking of donating it. Or maybe regifting it for one of those bridal showers coming up." She moved around the kitchen like she hadn't just explained away a gift from a man I'd never met, a gift that didn't belong in our house and definitely didn't belong without a better reason. And the way she moved, that's what stuck with me more than the bracelet. There was no fidgeting. No nervous twitch in her voice. Her story was tight. Smooth. Believable. Too believable. It was like she knew this moment would come. And just like that, I was the one who felt off balance. Like maybe I was overthinking. Like maybe I was the one reaching. She was good. I'll give her that. Everything in her tone, her body language, her casualness, it all worked together to paint me as the paranoid husband reading too much into something harmless. I even smiled a little, forced but warm enough to keep up the act. Got it. Morale boosting through jewelry. The modern workplace, huh? She laughed again, brushing past me to grab a sparkling water from the fridge. Yeah, well, beats Pizza Fridays, I guess. And that was that. She took the bracelet, walked it upstairs, and I never saw it again. But here's the thing no one tells you, suspicion doesn't always hit like a lightning strike. Sometimes it's slower, quieter. Like smoke curling through the cracks under a door, subtle but suffocating once it settles. I wanted to believe her. God, I wanted to. But the truth had already begun to ferment inside me, and from that moment on I wasn't looking at her the same way. I was listening differently. Noticing more. Connecting dots that maybe had always been there, but I'd chosen to ignore. And I knew deep down that this was just the start. It's strange how one tiny thing, a bracelet, a harmless explanation, can unravel everything you thought was fine. After that Sunday, I couldn't go back to seeing my life the same way. Not that I wanted to be suspicious. Not that I enjoyed it. But once that crack formed, I couldn't unsee it. The illusion started splintering, and I couldn't stop myself from poking at it. I didn't become obsessive overnight. I wasn't going through her phone or tracking her location, not yet. But the way I paid attention changed. It was like a switch flipped in my head, and suddenly all the little things I'd brushed off over the past few months started flashing back in a new light. Lexi used to be home by 6:30 on the dot. Like clockwork. She'd toss her bag on the bench by the door, kick off her shoes, and vent about her day while I made dinner. That rhythm had shifted slowly, so slowly I hadn't even noticed the change until it was too late. It started with 1 or 2 late nights a week. Then 3. Then it felt like she was barely home at all. Fridays especially, always the same line, the team wants to blow off steam, or we've got last-minute reporting deadlines. I wanted to believe her. I did. I kept telling myself that maybe her job had genuinely changed. Maybe she was under more pressure and didn't want to worry me. But something felt different, not just in her schedule, but in how she carried herself. She started dressing differently, for one. More polished. More intentional. Nothing too dramatic, not enough that someone on the outside would clock it, but to someone who knew her as well as I did, the changes were obvious. New shoes. Subtler makeup, somehow more striking. She started wearing perfume again. The kind she'd used back when we were dating, the kind she used to save for anniversaries and dinner dates. Now she wore it on random Tuesday evenings grabbing drinks with coworkers. I remember one night, I got home a little earlier than usual and saw her on the couch, grinning down at her phone. That look, the kind that blooms on someone's face when they feel noticed, it stopped me cold. But the second I walked into the room, she locked the screen and tucked it under a throw pillow like it was nothing. Everything good? I asked casually. She looked up, the smile already gone, replaced with that default distracted expression she wore more and more these days. Yeah, she said. Just a dumb meme Rachel sent. Rachel. Her name had become a catch-all. If I had $1 for every time something unexplainable in our lives got pinned on Rachel, I could have paid off our mortgage. I think what really shook me wasn't any one moment. It was the slow erosion of something that used to feel natural in Macy, comfort, familiarity. We'd lie in bed side by side, phones in hand, screens glowing, but the connection was gone. The pillow between us had started to feel like a wall. She used to tell me everything. The mundane, the random, the ridiculous. She'd send me texts during the day just to say she missed me or that a coworker wore something unhinged or that she was craving chicken parmesan. Yeah? Days would pass without more than a few one-word texts. Her responses became functional. Transactional. One day, I noticed she had cleared her message history in one of her chat apps. I don't even know why I noticed. I wasn't snooping. It just happened when she handed me her phone to look at a group photo from a recent work thing. I swiped left by accident and the messages were gone. All of them. What happened to your messages? I asked, handing her back the phone. She didn't miss a beat. Oh, I had to clear some space. My storage has been full for weeks. It was acting weird. Another casual answer. Another smooth dodge. She said it like someone who'd rehearsed the line. Maybe she had. I didn't push it then. Maybe I should have. But once you start doubting, it becomes a constant companion. You can't put it away. You wake up with it in your throat. You fall asleep with it hanging over you like a storm cloud. And worst of all, you start second-guessing yourself. You wonder if you're just being insecure. If maybe you're the one pulling away, projecting your fears onto a partner who's just tired, burnt out, human. That kind of thinking kept me frozen for a while. I didn't want to be that guy. The paranoid husband who reads too much into work drinks and changed routines. But then she started talking about space. It started innocently enough. I think I need to focus on myself more, she said one morning as we were getting ready. I've just been feeling. I don't know. Like I lost a part of me. Okay, I said. Do you want to take a trip or something? Do your own thing for a bit? She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. It's not about a trip. It's just I need room to breathe. I want to grow as a person. Find out who I am outside of US. Those words hit different. I stood there, toothbrush in hand, trying to piece together what she was really saying. We used to joke that we were codependent in the best way. That we were one of those couples who didn't get sick of each other. We didn't just love each other, we liked each other. But now? Even asking how her day went felt like an intrusion. She'd get snappy. Defensive. Every question was interpreted as control. Every "what time are you getting back tonight" became a commentary on her freedom. Still, I tried. I really did. I gave her space. I backed off. I stopped asking about work, stopped suggesting we do things together. I figured maybe I'd been too present, too accessible. I thought maybe if she missed me, if she had time to want me again, things would go back to the way they were. But they didn't. Instead, I felt like I was slowly being erased from her life. Not aggressively, not in a way I could point to and say, see, here's proof. But like someone tapering off a medication. Less presence. Less affection. Less everything. We'd sit on the couch and she'd lean away when I leaned in. Her laugh, when it came, sounded distant, like something she borrowed from someone else. She began describing her life in ways that didn't include me. We did this at work, we're planning the trip, we were up until midnight finishing something. And we wasn't me. I started to feel like a guest in my own home. One night I stood at the foot of the bed watching her sleep. Her breathing was soft, even. Peaceful. She looked like herself. But I felt like I was watching a stranger. Someone I used to know. Someone who used to know me. And I remember thinking, if she's not cheating, why does it still feel like she's gone? I didn't have proof. Not yet. But I had instinct. And that instinct was screaming. My mind kept going back to that bracelet. How effortlessly she had explained it away. How calm she had been, like she'd rehearsed the script down to the breath. That wasn't the reaction of someone surprised to be asked. That was the reaction of someone who expected to be caught and was ready for it. It was like she had been preparing for this to happen. Preparing for me to start seeing the edges of something else. So no, the bracelet didn't break me. It just woke me up. What was breaking me slowly, piece by piece, was everything after .it happened on a Tuesday. Nothing special about the day, really. I was supposed to be at work, stuck in back-to-back meetings that I hadn't been looking forward to. But I'd left a folder at home. One I absolutely needed. I cursed under my breath when I realized it. *T my manager a quick email saying I'd be 10 minutes late and drove back to grab it. That's all I thought it would be, 10 minutes. In and out. No drama. Just a forgotten folder and an annoying delay. But when I pulled into the driveway, the first thing I noticed was how quiet the house looked. Not empty, just still. Her car was there. That struck me as odd since she'd mentioned a full day at the office. I told myself maybe she'd come home for lunch. Maybe she wasn't feeling well. Maybe she forgot something too. Maybe. I unlocked the door as quietly as I could, old habit. Didn't want to startle her if she was napping or on a call. The house was dim, curtains drawn against the afternoon sun. The kind of lighting you use when you're trying to hide from the day. I stepped inside and froze. Somewhere upstairs, I could hear faint music. It wasn't loud, barely above a whisper. But it was enough to tell me she wasn't alone in her silence. Someone always puts on music when they want to set a mood. My heartbeat quickened. I stood there in the entryway, folder momentarily forgotten, trying to decide what to do. Go upstairs? Call her name? Walk away? Curiosity and dread were already tearing at each other inside me. I didn't want to see anything. Not really. I wanted to leave and stay gone. I wanted plausible deniability. But I also knew, in my gut, that I was standing on the edge of something final. I moved slowly. Each step up the stairs felt like it took a year. The music got clearer, still soft, something acoustic with a mellow rhythm. Not her usual taste. Definitely not something she'd play while working. Halfway up the stairs, I heard her laugh. And then, a man's voice, warm, easy, familiar in a way that made my skin crawl. I didn't need to hear more. I didn't rush up the last steps. I didn't burst into the room. I just moved until I was standing at the doorway to the bedroom, Our bedroom, which she had left slightly ajar. Not wide open, but enough that I could see in without making a sound. She was sitting on the bed in a loose robe, the silky one I had bought her for our anniversary 2 years ago, the same one she hadn't worn in months. Her legs were curled up beneath her, and her laptop sat in front of her, open and glowing. On the screen, a man's face, casual button-down shirt, sleeves rolled up, hair slightly tousled. Behind him, the faint logo of a tech startup she'd once mentioned during a conversation I barely remembered. Something about a team she collaborated with occasionally. I'd forgotten his name, or maybe she never gave it to me. They were laughing about something. Her voice was soft, playful, a tone I hadn't heard in a long time. She reached forward and brushed a strand of hair behind her ear, then leaned in closer to the screen like she wanted to close the distance. I stood there, frozen. Not shocked, exactly, more like stunned into stillness. As if my brain had short-circuited from the confirmation of something it already knew but had desperately tried to avoid. This wasn't work. This wasn't a meeting. This wasn't innocent. It was emotional. Mate. Comfortable. Too comfortable. I don't know how long I stood there. Long enough to hear her say his name in a way I recognized. The same way she used to say mine when we were younger, when love still felt like something new. Long enough to feel like a ghost in my own home. I didn't step inside. I didn't make a sound. I just backed away, careful not to let the door creak, and turned around. My feet felt heavy. My hands were shaking. But somehow, I made it back downstairs, grabbed the folder I had come for, walked out the door like nothing had happened. Then I got in my car and sat there in the driveway for nearly an hour. I don't remember most of that time, just the sensation of numbness settling into my limbs, like my body didn't know how to feel anymore. The worst part? It didn't hurt the way I expected. There was no explosion, no rage, no heartbreak that knocked the wind out of me. Just silence. A slow, quiet ending that had been building for months, like watching a candle finally burn down to the wick. That was the moment my marriage ended. Not on paper, not officially, but in my heart, in my mind, it was over. She didn't even know yet, but I did. Something had broken that couldn't be fixed. I wasn't even angry, not yet. I just felt removed, like someone observing their own life from the outside. I drove back to work, told my manager traffic had been worse than expected, sat through the rest of the meetings and nodded at the right times. I don't remember a single thing we talked about. I just remember wondering how many people around me had been through this and never said a word. When I got home that evening, everything was back to normal. She greeted me at the door, asked how my day was, told me about some drama at work, kissed me on the cheek, like nothing had changed, like we were still us. But I wasn't there anymore. That night, I lay next to her in bed, eyes open, staring at the ceiling while she scrolled on her phone beside me. She laughed quietly at something and turned her screen slightly away, and I realized she didn't even notice that I hadn't touched her, hadn't kissed her goodnight, hadn't said a word in nearly an hour. Could have told her I knew. I could have asked questions, demanded answers, burned the whole thing down in a blaze of fury. But I didn't. Not then. Because what would that have changed? The betrayal had already happened. Whether it was physical or not didn't even matter anymore. She'd given her heart, or at least the parts of it that used to belong to me, to someone else. And she'd done it quietly. Cleanly. Like she was slowly exiting a room, 1 foot at a time. The next few days I went through the motions. Ate breakfast. Went to work. Came home. Smiled. But behind every interaction was a wall I had built. I stopped asking about her day. Stopped offering mine. I wasn't waiting for her to confess. I was waiting for the strength to walk away. I started planning quietly, looking at rentals in nearby towns, weighing my options. I told no one. Not yet. I wanted time to make sense of it all without outside noise. But every time she touched my arm or said, "I love you," as she passed me in the hallway, I felt like I was watching someone act out a part they didn't even believe in anymore. She didn't notice the difference. Or maybe she did and just didn't care. Or maybe she did and that was part of the plan all along. And honestly, I wasn't sure which version hurt more. I don't remember what triggered it. Maybe it was the way I moved through the house, quiet, calculated, like someone avoiding the creak in the stairs. Maybe it was the way I stopped filling in the blanks when she forgot what she told me the day before. Or maybe she could just feel it, that something was missing. That I was missing. That the man she married had started to vanish. Whatever it was, she knew. She knew before I ever said a word. That was obvious when I walked through the door that Friday night and found her already waiting for me in the living room. The lights were dim. No music, no TV. Just her, sitting on the edge of the couch, posture tight, back straight, hands folded in her lap, too still to be natural. She had done her makeup. Not dramatically, but carefully. Like someone preparing for a trial. I stepped in and closed the door behind me. Hung up my coat. Slipped off my shoes. All without a word. She watched me the entire time. "You're home late," she said softly. I shrugged. Had some things to take care of. I walked past her toward the kitchen, my voice even, movements unhurried. I could feel the tension in the room like static, like we were both standing in a storm, holding metal rods. She followed me. "I ordered Thai," she said. "Your favorite." I glanced at the takeout bags on the counter. I already ate. That stopped her for a moment. Just long enough to break the illusion of control she'd been holding on to. Her breath caught in her throat, barely audible. And then, just as quickly, she recovered. "We need to talk," she said. Not asked. Said. Like she had decided it was time to finally speak her truth, whatever version of it she'd rehearsed. I nodded. Okay. We stood there for a moment in the kitchen, me by the fridge, her by the island. The space between us felt bigger than the room could hold. She opened her mouth, then closed it. Tried again. "I think I've messed things up," she began. I didn't respond. I didn't nod. I didn't make it easier. So she kept going. "I know you've been distant lately. And I understand why. I do. I haven't been fair to you. I've been confused, overwhelmed. Work has been insane. Life has felt like too much." She was looking everywhere but at me, the floor, the counter, the wall clock. "And I've made mistakes," she continued. "I'm not going to insult you by pretending otherwise." She looked up then, eyes searching my face for something, anger, sorrow, anything to latch onto. But I gave her nothing. "I didn't plan it," she said quickly, words spilling now. "That's the thing. It wasn't some premeditated affair. It started slow. Conversations. Laughs. I was feeling disconnected and he listened. He made me feel seen. That word again. Seen. "I didn't mean for it to get complicated," she said. "I didn't want to hurt you." That was the line that nearly pulled a reaction from me, nearly. Because it was laughable, the way people say they didn't want to hurt someone after they've already driven the knife in. As if intent erases damage. But still, I said nothing. She stepped closer. "I haven't done anything physical," she added quickly. "I mean, not really. There was one kiss. It was stupid. It didn't mean anything. A kiss. There it was. A crumb of truth offered like a peace treaty. Just enough to soften the blow to make the story more digestible." She paused again, waiting. Maybe she expected yelling. An accusation. Maybe she thought I'd shout, throw something, demand names and details. But I didn't move. I didn't ask. So she tried again. "I ended it," she said. "I told him it couldn't happen anymore. That I was married. That I loved you." I nodded once. Slow. Measured. She looked relieved almost. Like my nod had confirmed that this could still be salvaged. So she kept going. "We've been off, I know. I take responsibility for that. I started pulling away because I didn't know how to tell you what I was feeling. I was scared, and I know that's not an excuse. I should have come to you. I should have trusted you." Her voice cracked a little at the end and she wiped at her eyes. "But I want to fix this. I want us back." She stepped closer again. One hand reached out, hovered, then dropped. "I don't expect forgiveness overnight. But I'll do the work. Therapy. Counseling. Whatever it takes. I love you, Ronan. I do. And I know that's hard to believe right now, but it's the truth." Silence. That was all I had for her. Silence. She stood there, breathing hard, waiting for something. A yell. A tear. A question. Anything. But I just turned, walked past her, and headed upstairs. Behind me, I heard her whisper, say something. "Please." But I didn't. I closed the bedroom door gently behind me and sat on the edge of the bed. Hands clasped. Eyes unfocused. My mind wasn't racing. It was still. Flat. Like a calm sea after a shipwreck. Downstairs, I heard the faint rustle of her moving around. A sob muffled. The sound of the takeout bags being tossed in the trash. A door closing, maybe the bathroom, maybe the guest room. I didn't care. There was no fight left in me. No speech. No confrontation. She had braced for chaos. And what she got was worse. She got the cold, sterile weight of silence. Because sometimes silence says more than screaming ever could. It says, I've already mourned you. It says, you're not worth the energy of anger anymore. It says, this isn't the start of a fight. It's the end of one. The next morning, she was up before me. Or maybe she never slept. She didn't try to talk again. Just made coffee and moved around the house with a nervous kind of quiet. Like walking through a room with a sleeping baby and too many breakables. I went about my morning like she wasn't there. Showered. Got dressed. Ate. Left. I didn't even look at her. That pattern continued for days. She'd hover near doorways like she wanted to talk, but didn't. She'd cook dinner and leave my plate covered, untouched. She stopped asking how my day was. Stopped reaching for me in bed. Stopped saying I love you at random moments. I think part of her was waiting for the second act, the big blowout fight. But it never came. Because I wasn't holding it in. I was done. One night, I came home and found her sitting on the living room floor, sorting through old photos. Our wedding album was open beside her. She didn't say anything when I walked in. Just looked up with red eyes and tear-streaked cheeks. I stepped over a pile of pictures and walked upstairs. She didn't follow. Eventually, she stopped trying. And when the quiet came, it wasn't sad anymore. It was mine. The day I left, it was raining. Not heavy, not dramatic, just that slow, steady kind that feels more like a backdrop than a storm. The kind that makes everything seem quieter. Lexi didn't say much. She stood at the door with her arms wrapped around herself, watching as I carried 2 duffel bags out to the car. I had booked a rental in Iowa a few weeks prior, a room above an old antique bookstore in a coastal town that barely showed up on the map. I told no one. Not even my brother. Just packed what I needed, left a note with my lawyer's contact info, and walked out of a house that didn't feel like home anymore. She called after me once. Just my name. Ronan. But I didn't turn around. The drive was long, 12 hours, give or take, and for most of it, I said nothing. Didn't turn on the radio. Didn't check my phone. Just kept my hands at 10 and 2 and stared at the wet highway as it stretched out like a lifeline. By the time I arrived, it was dusk. The town looked like something out of a postcard, gray clapboard houses, chipped shutters, and the smell of saltwater drifting in with the wind. The bookstore sat near the edge of the harbor, its window display full of old hardcovers and sun-faded poetry collections. The upstairs room was small but clean. Wood floors. A creaky ceiling fan. A view of the bay. I didn't unpack much. Just enough to function. The rest stayed zipped up in the corner like I still wasn't sure how long I'd be staying. The owner of the bookstore, Marianne, was a woman in her late 60s who wore thick-rimmed glasses and knew the name of every customer who came through the door. She didn't ask too many questions. Just handed me a key, told me the rent was due on the 1st, and warned me that the radiator made weird noises at night. Ghosts, probably, she said with a wink. The next morning, I got up before sunrise and started running again. I used to run before work every day, back when life still felt predictable. Somewhere along the line, I'd stopped. But in that little coastal town, with the sky still dark and the streets empty, it felt like I was picking up a part of myself I hadn't realized I'd dropped. I found a job 2 towns over, repairing vintage musical instruments in the back of a shop that catered to aging jazz musicians and niche collectors. The owner, a quiet guy named Pete, hired me on the spot after I fixed a warped violin bridge with nothing but sandpaper, steam, and patience. I kept my head down. Kept to myself. Didn't talk about Lexi. Didn't talk about what happened. Most people assumed I was just another guy trying to start over, and they were right. I stopped checking social media. Deleted the apps. Turned off notifications. But my phone still lit up from time to time texts from her. The tone changed with every message. At first, they were remorseful. I miss you. Please come home. Then came the rationalizations. It didn't mean anything. You know that. Followed by bargaining. We could go to counseling. Please, let's try. Then anger. You're being cruel. You didn't even give me a chance. And finally, confusion. I don't even know who you are anymore. I didn't respond to any of them. I wasn't punishing her. I just didn't see the point. She had made her choices. And I was done narrating my pain for the benefit of someone who hadn't really listened in months. Weeks passed. One day, I was sitting on the floor of the bookstore helping Marianne rearrange some old military biographies when I got a voice message from an unknown number. I don't usually check them, but something about the area code caught my attention. It was familiar. I stepped outside and hit play. A man's voice. Calm. Measured. Hey, I don't know if this is the right number. I'm calling because, well, I found it saved under her emergency contacts, which I didn't realize until recently. He cleared his throat. I'm the guy Lexi was seeing. Or was. I didn't know she was married. I swear I didn't. She told me she was separated. That things were basically over. That you were just roommates waiting out a lease. I didn't question it. Another pause. I didn't know the truth until yesterday. She told me everything. And I just wanted to say, I'm sorry, for whatever that's worth. You didn't deserve what happened. Neither of us did. Then the voice grew quieter, like he was debating whether to say more. She's not who I thought she was. She blurred timelines. Lied. Made it sound like she was the victim. She used me to exit something she didn't have the guts to face honestly. I guess I'm just saying. I get it now. And I hope you're okay. Click. I stood there for a while, phone in hand, the wind tugging at the collar of my jacket. No rage. No vindication. Just a hollow sense of confirmation. It wasn't about him. It had never been about him. He was just the mirror. The one she used to see a version of herself she wanted to believe in. And me? I was the frame she discarded to make it fit. I deleted the message. Later that night, I sat on the narrow balcony outside my room watching the fog roll in over the water. I sipped cheap bourbon from a chipped mug and didn't think about her. Not directly, anyway. I just listened to the creak of the docks, the soft lapping of the waves, the rustle of gulls settling into silence. I had no idea if she was still trying to contact me. I'd stopped looking. And that felt like a win. A few weeks later, I got an envelope in the mail, no return address. Inside were photos. Lexi and him, smiling in restaurants, kissing on a beach, even one taken at the overlook where I had proposed to her. On the back of one photo was a note in her handwriting. I chose him. And now I have nothing. I stared at it for a moment, then slid everything back into the envelope. No anger, no sadness, just understanding. This wasn't regret. It was bait. A final swing to pull me back into her orbit. But I'd already left that gravity. She didn't want to apologize, she wanted control. I gave her nothing. That was her true loss. I moved again inland this time. A cabin by the woods. I'd wake up early, run before the sun crested the trees, breathe air that didn't carry old memories. Made friends who never asked about my past. A friend mentioned Lexi had been posting dramatic stories online. Tales of betrayal and heartbreak. In one, she shared a photo, pregnant. No name mentioned. No father listed. I felt nothing. Just distance. That night, I lit a candle, not for grief, not for her. Just for peace. I made dinner for one and sat in silence. A silence that finally belonged to me. Not empty. Just whole. And finally mine.